And we are live at the Turn 2 Lounge at Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway as we have a special Facebook Live pre-match show for you today, getting you ready for Sporting Kansas City and Seattle Sounders at Children's Mercy Park, a match that's coming up at 5 o'clock just across the way here at from the Speedway at Turn 2 Lounge, where we actually literally are overlooking Turn 2 at Kansas Speedway. My name's Nate Bukaty. We've got Carter Augustine with us today, and a special guest joining us to start the show, Roger Espinoza. Lucky Lefty, you might know him as well. We'd prefer that Roger's out getting ready for the game today, but he's still working his way back from this knee injury, so he's been kind enough to give us some time here today. After we talk with Roger, he's going to do a little meet and greet, sign some autographs, take pictures with the fans here at the Turn 2 Lounge as well. This is a part of a great new partnership, Sporting Kansas City and Hollywood Casino, which is, I mean, right across the way from Children's Mercy Park. Carter, they're doing park, play, and then go watch the games as well, as you can basically park for free right here at Hollywood Casino. You can play some casino games, enjoy some great lunch specials, drink specials, and then a free shuttle to and from the stadium right here. Couldn't get any easier than that. And you don't have to deal with the traffic as well.
Yeah, park, eat, and play. It's a really sweet promotion that you have. They want you to come in here. You can park for free, which is, I think, always a bonus. And then, as you mentioned, avoiding the traffic on the way out. You head over to the game on a free shuttle that drops you off right at the Boulevard Brew House there, right at Children's Mercy Park. So it's a wonderful little partnership that we have here with Hollywood Casino, and you can get back and forth pretty easily to any match day at Sporting Kansas City. Yeah,
it's a great way to do it if you're going to be coming to Sporting Kansas City games later this season. I'll let you know what's coming up on our show here in a little bit. We're going to talk with Sporting Kansas City performance analyst Ash Wallace, who's going to break down some video for us and talk about the keys to this afternoon's game for Sporting Kansas City, plus some other things to watch for in general. And that's going to be a really enlightening conversation with Ash Wallace. We've got a great crowd here at Turn 2 Lounge as well. We're going to be doing some audience questions. We'll also be taking questions from you watching at home on Facebook Live as well. And even Roger and Ash might answer some questions for you guys as well. So it's going to be a great show coming up as we get you ready for Sporting Kansas City and the Seattle Sounders. But let's start with Roger Espinoza. And I'm sure the first question everybody has, Roger, is how are you, man?
I'm great. I'll be better after the game when we have a win.
There you go.
But I'm doing well. It's only halfway through the injury, almost 6 weeks, and I get to take this off and start doing more mobility things, and get to jog a little bit, do the bike more often, and hopefully be back soon on the field.
What is that recovery process like for you? Obviously, over at Pinnacle, you got all the bells and whistles over there.
Yeah, it's not fun. I think being injured is the toughest part. I don't like being in the gym as much. I don't like working out other than playing on the soccer field. I mean, I love that part, but it's tough because you get to see your teammates training, but it's part of it. And, the great thing is when you get injured, you come back stronger.
And there's no secret the team's been going through some tough times, as you mentioned. You're hoping to get that win here today. We believe the team's going to go get that win today. Does that make it that much tougher for you to have to sit there and watch when you know the team's going through a little bit of a rough patch?
It is, because you want to help your teammates. You want to be there, and they're going through a tough time, and you want to be there with them. But hey, not being there, I also try to help the team, be there in practice every day, help the young guys, try to keep them motivated. And our team, you can see the guys, we're not going through an easy moment right now, but you can see everybody fighting, and this is only just happens for a couple months, and we're going to be back. We've been through this before, and hopefully we come back. We have the players, we have the coaching staff, and we have the fans that support us every day, and that's a huge help for us.
We just talked to Matt Beasler, and he said being out on the sidelines, watching from up top, he got a different perspective that he's not usually used to. What's it like for you watching games from up in the stands in terms of just what you see on the field?
Yeah, like I said earlier, being up there, everything looks easy. It looks easy, but when you get in the field, it's a lot tougher. So, you get to see the movement of some of your teammates on the field, and like I said, being hurt, it's a tough thing. When you come back stronger. You come back in the field with more energy. You rest a little more, and hopefully, by the time I come back, the team is doing well, and it just becomes a lot easier for me to incorporate into the team. But it's a tough moment, and I'm just learning from up there and seeing what I can do to help the team when I come back.
So one of the things that Peter Vermees did, because he knew that your injury was more of a longer-term injury than just maybe a couple of weeks, he went out and brought back one of your teammates, Benny Feilhaber. Now, we know that Benny doesn't play the same way that you play necessarily, but he's playing in that central midfield role, especially trying to fill in for you. What do you like about what you see from Benny Feilhaber? What does he bring back to this team now that you guys have him back?
And Benny won an MLS Cup here. Benny won a couple Open Cups. I think he kind of was one of the main guys to get the trade back here. He saw that the team needed help. And I'm sure if Benny would have gone to any other team and said, hey, I want to go play for you, I'm sure any coach would take him. We know what he brings to the table. We can see it on some plays that, hey, if he sees a guy open, he's going to pinpoint the ball there. And Benny is the reason why he's one of the best players in this league, because he thinks he does.
So what we're looking back at here, Ryder, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what we're watching here, this was the ball that was won by Benny Feilhaber in the MLS playoffs in 2013 in that big come-from-behind win against the New England Revolution at home. Now, I know that you were watching that from overseas at that time, but the reason we showed that is because Peter Vermees said when he had the introductory press conference that everybody knew back then that Benny could make that pass, but it was going and making that tackle and winning the ball in the midfield that people questioned whether or not he would do that when he first came to Sporting Kansas City, but he became that type of player here. And then we saw it in the game last weekend against the Vancouver Whitecaps as well. What have you seen from Benny when it comes to that guy, that growth, over the years since he first came to Kansas City?
When you come to this team, you come with the style, but then you see the team and you see everybody fighting for each other, and that commitment comes then. And I think Benny brought that commitment. He's a very smart guy. Plays a lot with his instincts, and that's great for a guy who can read the play. And right now he knows what the team needs. He knows the team was struggling. He came in right away, and we saw last game. He saw a play right away. I'm pretty sure he already knew exactly what he was going to do before the play started. He saw a guy coming. He covered the ball, turned around, and saw Johnny run into a space, and he was able to pinpoint it. And he started the whole goal. He didn't get the assist, but he started the whole movement right there in that goal. And that's things that people don't see probably. But here as players, we see that, and that's what he brings to the table. Keeps the ball a lot. So it's a player that definitely it's a Sporting Kansas City style player.
Okay, we'll take some questions from the audience as well. If anybody has one for Roger Espinoza, make sure you put your hand up. People are being a little shy right now. You got your chance.
Let's go.
Okay, we got a gentleman over here.
This guy's been the whole time right there trying to ask a question. I can see him.
So the most important question of all, right? I know that this is coming off in a few days. I know that you have to go through some rehab, and I know that the doctors are the ones who are going to decide when you come back, but when do you think you will be back?
I'll come back when I'm ready. The doctors gave me the whole what was going on, and then after that, if I start feeling good tomorrow, I'll play tomorrow. But it's kind of now, when you've been in the league for a long time, and the coaches and the trainers leave it up to you how you feel. And this club's been about that. If you're having a problem, you should get out the field because it's going to get worse. And, we know what the protocol is, how the time being, and from that, it's 8 to 12 weeks. And if I feel good in 8 weeks, then I'll be back in 8 weeks. I feel better in 9 weeks. But one thing for these type of injuries, not to rush it. You have to be careful. And when I'm ready, I'll be ready. And, I want to come back to the field. Like up here, I want to be there. Yeah. All right, thank you.
The players can't wait as well. We've got one more question for Roger here before he goes and starts taking pictures and signing autographs.
As you work back from injury and into the team, what do you see your position and your role coming back from the injury as we go into the later season and even the postseason?
Yeah, obviously it's tough coming back from an injury. You're not as in shape as the guy's been playing the entire season. So, if I can come 10, 15 minutes and help the team, that's fine with me. I've done it before. But, it's just to help the team and be a leader. Being an older guy, that's my responsibility. I take that deeply with the young guys. And, now that getting older, you want to win more and more and more because, your time is almost done. And, that's my role pretty much. I want to be that leader. I want to be that guy that helps the guys that are guys playing my position like Bucio, Benny, guys that I can help, and hopefully I'm there to pick their brain a little bit, and he kind of helps that part. But yeah, that's pretty much my role.
All right, so this is Roger Espinoza, guys. How about a round of applause for the Sporting Kansas City midfielder? He's going to stop and take pictures and sign autographs for a little bit. We are here at the Turn 2 Lounge at Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway. Keep the questions coming in on Facebook as well. We'll answer those as we come back. Hi, man. You done with us?
Come play with me, I hope you will. Just take a chance, I'll give you endless thrills.
Hollywood Casino. Come play where the rewards and thrills never end. Max your bets and let it ride on the hottest slots and table games. Add in your favorite dining options and you'll see why we're your winning destination. Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway.
Okay, we're here at the pre-match show at Hollywood Casino, and I'm joined now by Vice President and General Manager of Hollywood Casino, Rick Skinner. Rick, thanks for joining us here to celebrate a really wonderful partnership.
Oh, such a great partnership. We're in the second year of our partnership with Sporting KC, and it's just been a wonderful partnership. We offer park, eat, and play so that you can arrive up to 2 hours before the game here at Hollywood Casino. Free parking, park in our garage. Shuttles straight over to the stadium, drop you off at the front door. Those shuttles run continuously up to an hour after the game. And then, of course, here in Turn 2 where you're broadcasting, we have just a multitude of drink and food specials. It's really been a great partnership, one we've definitely enjoyed.
Do you like seeing the Sporting KC fans that come here before and after the games every match day?
Oh, it's incredible. It's incredible. It's amazing how much steam it has really gained over time. And now it's something we can't take away because people have really gained a lot of traction with it.
Of course, Sporting KC matches aren't the only things that you guys have some fun out here with. Tell me a little bit about Final Fridays, which you guys are starting here this summer.
Yeah, this coming Friday will be our first one. County Road 5 is our band performing. It's on the patio looking out over the Speedway here at Turn 2, right underneath the balcony at Turn 2. Great. We're going to have food trucks, KC Cruise here with outdoor games, virtual reality, live music. Our own chef will be out. We got the $5,000 smoker we've got out there rolling. So I think it's going to be a lot of entertainment, a lot of fun for everyone.
That's coming up this Friday, and then does that continue throughout the summer as well?
Yes, June and July, the last Friday of each month, we'll be featuring great acts. I believe June, Disco Dick and the Mirror Balls will be here. So a lot of fun at Hollywood Casino and Sporting KC.
Yeah, Hollywood Casino and Sporting Kansas City. Again, park, eat, and play. And I guess the one question I think we get a lot from fans is that kind of hard to do when you come here for park, eat, and play? Or what are the things that fans need to think about when they come here to do that?
Honestly, it's just getting to Hollywood Casino, and we'll get you to the game. We'll make sure you're fed. We'll make sure you have a great time before the game. There's really no thought involved. Just know what time the game starts and come here, and we'll take care of you before and after the game.
Yeah, it's really a great setup here. You can park for free, go to the game, and then, of course, play the games here before and after the game.
Absolutely.
As well. Well, thank you for joining us, Rick. Do you have maybe a good thought for Sporting Kansas City ahead of Seattle Sounders game tonight?
I just hope the weather holds. We've had a little bit of volatile weather here lately, but I'm sure Sporting KC is going to show up tonight.
I think so as well. Thanks again, Rick Skinner, Vice President and GM.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice little conversation there, Carter, as Park, Eat, Play is the theme of the week here. Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway. Look, you can see Children's Mercy Park from right out of the window. I'm looking over your shoulder, and I can see the stadium from here. So it's a really short shuttle ride. They'll drop you off right at the gates at the Budweiser Brew House. So it's really convenient. And when you're leaving after the game, you come over here to the casino. You can play, you can eat, you can do all those things, but you don't have to deal with traffic either. This is an easier way to get out of the stadium grid as well.
Yeah, I think that's a common problem or issue when you're getting out of the Sporting KC games. You get that little gridlock trying to get back on the interstate. But yeah, if you park here, you get pretty much a straight shot out to the interstates. You can go either one of the back ways or just out there to I-70 or 435. So I think that's a nice little bonus, especially for a family man like yourself.
My problem is that I can smell the wings right now, and I have a weakness for wings, and you can smell them here at the Turn 2 Lounge. The food's terrific. You can park, eat, and play.
Food and drink specials.
Right,
Yeah.
food and drink specials for all the Sporting Kansas City match days the rest of the year. And I would also point out, while we're plugging things, that Carter and I are wearing the cool new Pride kits that just got released to the public, at least in terms of people can see them now, but you can actually start ordering them online tomorrow. These will be featured on Wednesday's game against the LA Galaxy.
On Wednesday's game, it's a month-wide initiative in MLS in June, but as these fans know, Sporting KC doesn't have a home match in June, unless there's an Open Cup game that we'll see when those new pairings come out. But no MLS home games in June, so they'll wear this on the last game of May here coming up on Wednesday, so it should be really interesting. And, of course, that means these two games are very important for Sporting Kansas City as well.
I will take some questions from the audience here in just a little bit as well, but we're also encouraging you that are watching on Facebook Live to put your questions in as well. Let's go to our first one. What have you made of Gideon Zelalem, that they're talking about, since his arrival in Kansas? How is he integrating himself into the team? Alex sends that one in on Facebook. Carter, why don't you start?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've been able to see him a few times with the Swope Park Rangers, and it seems like he's still kind of getting used to the system, playing in that midfield role. We've seen him come on for some cameos with Sporting Kansas City as well, but I think he's just trying to get more of what Peter Vermes is telling him to do. I think a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more, stuck in and getting into the challenges is, I think, what he wants to see of Gideon Zelalem. But you see those flashes when he's on the ball, the quality that he has and the ability to be a great passer. I think we've seen that so far from Gideon Zelalem for sure.
Carter Augustine, by the way, for those that don't know, play-by-play voice of Swope Park Rangers, so he sees a lot of those young guys playing, a lot of academy guys that have been getting calls up lately. If you might stop and think about this for a second, the knock-on effect of having 10 different players injured and a couple of guys off playing with the U17s, it's not just on the Sporting Kansas City starting 11 and even the 18 in which they haven't been able to put together a full 18. You start pulling up guys from Swope Park Rangers to dress for the Sporting Kansas City games, all of a sudden you got to start pulling up guys from the academy to play for Swope Park Rangers. And now, in the short term, that makes things difficult for both teams, right, Carter? But in the long term, there are some young players, both in the academy and SPR guys, that are getting really good experience at an early age.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Nate. And we saw the last Swope Park Rangers home game, some academy kids on academy contracts, Jake Davis, Kave Rad, and we had kid Sean Karani, who's from Wichita. He's committed to play in college ball next year, but the display he had this past weekend was absolutely outstanding here for the Swope Park Rangers. Got to call that game with Seth Sinovic, and he was really impressed with Sean Karani. So you can definitely go and watch the SPR and watch some of these youngsters coming up trying to make their way and get contracts with the Rangers and eventually with Sporting Kansas City. So it's been an interesting year with all these injuries, and you're right, it has had a knock-on effect all the way down to the academy with this top-to-bottom integration that we have here in Kansas City.
Yeah, Peter Vermes says that academy is going to be the lifeblood of the organization going forward. So starting to see some young guys get professional minutes is a big step in that process. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Ash Wallace, the performance analyst for Sporting Kansas City, is going to join us. You guys are going to be fascinated by some of the breakdowns he has for us. We are once again at the Turn 2 Lounge at Hollywood Casino, where you can park, eat, and play for the Sporting Kansas City game as we get you ready for Sporting KC and the Sounders.
Come play with me, I hope you will. Just take a chance, I'll give you endless thrills.
Hollywood Casino. Come play where the rewards and thrills never end. Max your bets and let it ride on the hottest slots and table games. Add in your favorite dining options and you'll see why we're your winning destination. Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway.
Welcome to a summer where scarves are in season, where haircuts change from week to week, but loyalty lasts a lifetime. Welcome to the International Champions Cup, soccer's first tournament of the year. We're on July 23rd at Arrowhead Stadium. FC Bayern battles AC Milan right in our own backyard. Welcome to the world and its most beautiful game. Come on, come all. Grab tickets at Ticketmaster.com today.
And you are looking live at Children's Mercy Park from Hollywood Casino. We want to illustrate once again how close we are to the stadium as we are featuring the Park Eat Play option here at Turn 2 Lounge at Hollywood Casino. You come park here in the ample parking garage that they have, free shuttle over to the stadium, and then come on back over here for some food and drinks after the games as well. Myself and Carter Augustine have been here, and we're joined now by Ash Wallace, performance analyst for Sporting Kansas City. If you watch the Sporting KC broadcasts ever, you're going to hear Carter talk about conversations he has with Ashley Wallace quite a bit. This man breaks down as much film as anybody in the league, and he's going to do a little film breakdown for us right now, Ash. Let's take a look at some of the things that you want to see from Sporting Kansas City in this game. You guys might hear the phrase a lot, movement off the ball, from Peter Vermes. He always talks about how he wants to see players with good movement off the ball. Ash, can you show us exactly what Peter's talking about when he says that?
Yeah, of course. So we're going to look at the game that we think was the best we played this year, obviously, and it was the Montreal game. And the reason for that is that when you're high on confidence and when you have a bunch of guys in the team that all feel each other, you don't have to second guess what's coming. You can anticipate the plays ahead of time. And so eventually when the ball comes here to Ilya, if we stop the ball right here, if you look at Gerso down the corner, he's not waiting to see where this ball goes. He's already running, right? He's already moving into the spaces, and he's anticipating that once the ball comes into this area, that he's going to be able to get in behind the high defensive line. And as we play the ball forward, you see that it's not the first pass he receives, but it's the next ball. But because he's already running, the defender can't anticipate the action. He's already in, and it could have been a good chance on goal. Johnny comes in. But those are the actions that when you're confident and when you have a bunch of guys in the team that they've played together, that they just feel what's coming next.
So that's a good illustration right there, the movement off the ball, anticipating the action. We're going to watch another clip here, and this will feature some players that put in a heck of an amount of work as well away from the ball.
Yeah, no doubt. When it comes into it, I believe this is the second or third goal. Geez, we scored so many, I don't quite remember. But
it was one of the 7.
It was one of the 7. So eventually the ball works its way to Fontas here. And what you'll see is that he does a great job here to secure the first pass. And if we freeze right there, you'll see that as the ball comes into Ilya, Gerso decides already he's going to take off into the space. And when you play against a team that has a back four, those spaces end up being open because the outside backs get forward. The ball's on this side, so it's nowhere close to Gerso. But as the ball goes through into Ilya, what we're going to see is Felipe's anticipating the next movement, and he opens up into the space. Nemo's anticipating that he might receive the second pass, and Gerso's anticipating that there's a load of space there that he may be able to find something. He's not sure, but he's anticipating the action that we're going to be able to try and get the ball forward. And so from that, as we see, ball goes into Gutierrez. Gerso's already running, and eventually it's an easy goal for us. Because when you're confident, you're not second-guessing your actions, and you're always anticipating the next play. And it ends up being what looks like a simple goal, but because guys are all reading each other and reading the plays, it becomes, well, you see a very simple finish for Nemo there.
A couple more goals from the Montreal game, and I believe this one a lot of people felt like was maybe one of the best team goals that Sporting Kansas City have scored this year.
Yeah, agreed. And we're going to look at it from two different perspectives. We're going to look at it from the global perspective here, as we see, with all players in the field, and then we're going to concentrate on Gutierrez. But everybody knows the way we play, right? We want to try and build from the back, and we want to try and advance up the field. Well, teams will either sit in or they'll come and press, and it's trying to find a way to get a team to break their lines. So as you see here, Montreal have decided we're going to drop back, and we're going to try and make them come at us. We managed to play the ball backwards, and we start pulling guys out of shape, which is great for us. The problem is that once the ball goes back to Tim, and you'll see that we're all trying to come back into our positions. And you'll see if we freeze, we have somewhat of our back four shape. Ilier's getting to the defensive midfielder position, but we don't quite yet have anybody in the spots where the central midfielders are. We have Felipe and Roger, but you could argue that they're being occupied by the two central midfielders for Montreal. So as the play goes, you see that Felipe is the guy that ends up deciding, hey, we need a guy on this side of the field because Roger isn't there. Okay, it happens in the game, it's no problem, but the problem with that, we now have a space here. And we're talking about anticipating the actions. Who you'll see coming back and why he's been so good for the team is Christian Nemeth. And he anticipates the action, he comes back to fill that zone, and we have a perfect allocation of players to be able to break through the pressure. And now a team like Montreal who wanted to sit back, now they're pressing in a half and they've created a bunch of space, and we just have to try and find a way to kind of break through that. And you see again, we have Zeus running, we have Gerso running, we have Felipe running. Roger plays an unbelievable ball into the space, but because we've dragged them out from where they wanted to be, it ends up being an unbelievable team goal, and it's a great finish by Felipe getting to the box.
So Ash does a great job of breaking down all these different mindsets on the field by different players and where they need to be. But let's take a look at one guy in particular and how much ground he covers in this action.
To me, to anybody watching and to you guys, I'll say this one thing. Initially, the spotlight's going to go away, and there's going to be a circle around Felipe Gutierrez. Just follow the circle. Don't worry about the rest of the game, because his actions in this 90 seconds, to me, is unbelievable. And it shows that when you're playing with confidence and when you have a team that anticipates the actions, that it's so easy to play amongst each other, and it makes the game simple to read. And so you see him here. He's opening up to try and give Bees some space to come in, and you can see him motion into him. Hey, I've created the space for you. Let's go. Come forward. And he's trying to occupy a little pocket in between the lines. Okay, it doesn't work out, and we end up having to go backwards. He's still anticipating we might be able to play forward, so he stays in the front line. From this point, like we said, he's moving back to try and help the game, and at this moment anticipates that I'm needed to be in a spot where I can relieve pressure for the team. Makes a great movement to be there. Plays back to Fonte. He's still in the location if he needs him. Now he anticipates, hey, I left my space on the left side. It's okay, Nemo's there. Creates the space for Nemo, because if he'd have stayed here, it would have been open, and keeps going. Just keeps moving, anticipates we're going to break that line, anticipates that we're going to get a good ball in the box, and it ends up being a great finish by the guy. But he's almost covered every blade of grass in the action, and it ends up being what's an unbelievable goal on the stroke of halftime. I believe that was the third goal, and you go into halftime 3-0 up, and it's a great place to be.
Peter Vermees talks all the time with the players about playing every role of the ball.
Yep.
And we saw that with Felipe there. Now, another guy that Peter put a lot of praise on after last weekend's game is Matt Besler.
Yeah.
He said he was the top man in the match, coming back maybe even earlier than he otherwise would have wanted to with the hamstring injury.
Yeah.
What made Matt Besler so good last weekend?
Well, look, as it comes into it, for me, this play is 30 seconds into the game. And the amount of centre-backs you see in the league, one, they don't anticipate this ball, and two, they're playing the ball out for a throw-in, and now you have to deal with that. He just anticipates, turns out, and plays Seth, and for your first action back from a hamstring injury, you're in the game and you're ready to go. Here, instead of playing Seth, he plays all the way up to Kellen Rowe, and now they're running back towards the wrong goal. They're simple plays, but for a guy that's just come back from being out 3 or 4 weeks, it's great to have him back on the field, and he just helps move our team forward from the back with his distribution. This one, for me, is great. If he stays here in the back, we end up bringing Vancouver forward. He steps into the space, which means the guy that was on Benny, he now leaves, and all of a sudden Benny has time and space to play forward. But it's simple passes executed well, consistently throughout the game, and he helps the team move forward. Again, here, he drops back towards his own goal. He's not going tight to the guy because Boton would be left 1v1 in the box, and you'll see at the right moment, he steps in, and he ends up winning the ball. That's just experienced defending from a guy that's been on our team for 10 or 11 years. Again here, steps in, wins the ball, plays a first-time ball into Christian Nemeth, and now we're in the attack, instead of dropping back behind the ball. Again here, sees the action of Montero, he's facing his own goal, steps up quick and aggressive, wins the ball, and stops an attack from happening. This one, for me, and if we can stop it where the pause is, for me, this is an unbelievable world-class action. And it doesn't get the recognition that it deserves, because he has to go from defending somewhat of a high line in your low block to deciding he has to drop back to defend the cross. He drops back to defend the cross, and from that side, it should be a left-footed clearance. I mean, regardless of the fact he's left-footed, from that side of the field, he should clear the ball with his left foot. But he realizes the ball's cut back and he has to go with his right foot. And if you see Montero right here, if he'd have waited to go with his left foot, it's the one you see all around the world, where the center forward comes from the side, he takes a touch, you try and swing, and now it's a penalty. The fact that he changes his feet in that action, and the fact that he gets it straight to Benjamin Feilhaber is just unbelievable for me. Like, now all of a sudden they're not getting a shot from the top of the box, and we're going the other way. World-class performance from Bees on his first game back.
And I love the video you showed of the one interception that he had where with the same action, he intercepts the pass and with one touch, he's playing it into Christian Namath. That goes back to the first video you talked about, the anticipation. He sees that play before he's even made the interception.
Yeah, no doubt. So many center backs in our league would be back on the halfway line and they would just be waiting to protect the space. The problem is if that attacker receives and turns and runs at you, now we're all dropping back to our own goal. And over the course of the game, if you have to continually cover 60 yards to go back and defend, and then 80 yards to go to your goal, that's when you get tired. And it made a big difference in the second half because we had 10 guys, and those little tiny actions make a difference over the course of the game. So when we get to the end of the game, maybe we can strike and we can find a winner.
Okay, we're taking questions again on Facebook Live and here in the audience as well. We have a question on Facebook Live right now for you, Ash, from Megan, who wants to know, what do you expect to see tactically from the Sounders in this game tonight?
Well, they're certainly an experienced unit who haven't changed too many things in the way they go about the game. They always have a playmaker underneath. It was Dempsey, now it's Ladero. And they find good chances to get crosses into the box. And especially Rui Diaz, for a guy that's 5'9", 5'10", he finds good seams in the box and he runs hard. So I anticipate a lot of crosses into our box. And like most teams in the league, I would expect them to be looking to counter us when they come to Children's Mercy Park. And I'm sure that hopefully the first 15 minutes of the game sets up in a way that we're able to push them back in their end, start the game aggressive, and take the game to them because, as you know, Major League Soccer isn't a league where if you're near the top or near the bottom, that it makes a difference. It's game to game and it's week to week, and we certainly think that we have a team more than capable of taking on the Seattle team.
So, Ash, before we break, one other bit of news was Sounders came out this week. Yeah. We've talked about Matt Beasler being one of the greatest center backs in U.S. history. Chad Marshall announced his retirement. He missed the last 3 games because of an injury, and it's going to be a career ender for him. What does that mean for the Sounders, knowing that he won't be on that back line? He's been a fixture for them in some trophy-winning campaigns.
Well, when I first came to the league, he was one of those players you look at and you think, he's not so quick. He can't move. You think you can get around him. Maybe his ball-playing ability is fairly average for a ball-playing center-back in the back there, but he has so much experience in the game and so much leadership that he makes all the guys around him better because he sees the actions ahead of time and he makes sure that his back four is intact. He makes sure the 2 in front of him are working hard. And a lot of their wins over the course of the last few years going through games have been from clean sheets. They've kept clean sheets and it's allowed the guys further forward to make plays. And a lot of those guys fight for him. And he was the leader in the back line. And so it's going to be interesting to see who steps up there because they have Roman Torres, they have Kim Ki-hee. They're going to need leadership back there. And so my guess is they obviously feel that they have that. But he'll be a big miss for them for sure. And just for today, I think it's great for us because even if he didn't start, maybe they could have brought him on late to go 5 in the back. And we don't have to worry about that today with him because he makes a lot of defensive blocks and a lot of defensive plays that makes them very hard to break down.
All right, guys, how about a round of applause for Ash Wallace breaking it down for us here, giving us some insight on this game. We'll take a break and we'll wrap things up. We'll get some more questions from the audience and from Facebook Live as well from here at Turn 2 Lounge at Hollywood Casino, where you can park, eat, and play for the SKC games.
Come play with me, I hope you will. Just take a chance, I'll give you endless thrills.
Hollywood Casino. Come play where the rewards and thrills never end. Max your bets and let it ride on the hottest slots and table games. Add in your favorite dining options and you'll see why we're your winning destination. Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway.
And we are back at the Turn 2 Lounge. That's the view. And oh yeah, there's Children's Mercy Park. Just down the straightaway. Park here, eat, get some food specials, drink specials at the Turn 2 Lounge. Take the free shuttle over to the game, have a good time there. Watch Sporting Kansas City win, and then come back here and maybe you can be a big winner as well. As we're wrapping things up on Facebook Live, we appreciate everybody watching on Facebook Live and all of you that have been here today as well. Let's do some more questions. We'll take those that are coming down online, but we have one from the audience here as well.
Hello. I just wanted to know, how are you guys going to do today on the front line without Christian Namath?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's a tough one, right? Because Christian Namath has been so good this season to start leading the line for Sporting Kansas City.
11 goals so far on the season for Christian Namath in all competitions. 7 goals in MLS plays. Pretty much been everything that Peter Vermees told us he would be as the number 9. But he got that red card last weekend, and I don't think he meant anything in that tackle, but it was a clumsy one maybe is the best way to describe it, and it was a deserved red card. So, yes, Sporting Kansas City, that's going to be an interesting one to see who they put in the lineup. Lineup hasn't come out yet today. Johan Quazé would be maybe the most obvious choice because he has played in that number 9 position for Sporting KC a couple of times already this year and a couple of times last year, even if that's not his primary position. But I think it also calls into question, Carter, when we talk about these injuries, guys, it's not just to a handful of starters, which it is, right? There's at least a good 5 starters that have been out for significant periods of time. But they tried to bring in depth this offseason, and the depth has gotten hurt as well. Eric Hurtado was supposed to be the answer to that question. If something happens with Christian Namath, Eric Hurtado is the number 9 that comes in, and he got hurt in CONCACAF Champions League play down in Panama in a long-term type injury, so we haven't seen him. So I think another option may be Gianluca Busio, who's just coming back from a great performance with the U17s, Carter.
Yeah, those are a couple options that you mentioned, Quazé and Busio. It's a tough thing that we haven't got to see a lot from Eric Hurtado so far. We saw him do pretty well in those Champions League appearances that he made. I thought he played pretty well down in Toluca when he came on as a sub. So you're right, it's not just been the starters, it's been the backups as well. You know, we saw Johnny Russell kind of play a little more centrally a few times last year, but I think they like him on the wing. He's so dangerous, especially getting him isolated one-on-one with those fullbacks. It's a really difficult question because with Hurtado out, they don't really have that natural backup striker. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who they play. I think Johan Quazé may be the leader in the clubhouse just because, as you mentioned, we've seen him play in that more of a false 9 role here a few times already.
And one thing about Quazé, he's a big, powerful, strong guy. He can hold the ball up, and you hope that maybe that's something he can help the team with today if he ends up in that position. We have one more question from the audience here. Go ahead, sir.
How we doing, guys?
Good. How are you?
Great. Ready for a sporting win today. So,
Absolutely.
Question with Namath being out, kind of going off what she said, what are we thinking about Wilson Harris just being signed from the Swope Park? Do you think he'll have a chance to come in today?
Well, you have to wonder. I mean, he came into the bench last week as a emergency injury replacement, and you have to be really down on your numbers and your team to even get that exception from the league to sign him up from the Swope Park Rangers. Another kid that he was supposed to play for the University of Louisville. He committed to Louisville, but was doing so well with the Rangers last year that they offered him a professional deal halfway through the summer. He took it and played pretty well with the Rangers towards the end of last season. Still just 19 years old. Got a nice experience on the bench for Sporting Kansas City last week. I think it's a big call for him to get into the starting lineup, but I do wonder if maybe we'll see him on the bench again because, like you said, it'd be interesting to see. He is the one guy that's more of like a target forward that they're kind of missing at the moment.
I had the pleasure of filling in for Carter on one of the Swope Park Rangers games this year, and Wilson Harris just happened to score the goal for Swope Park Rangers in that game, and it was a really good one as well. He suffered a bit of a shoulder injury that same day, but I would point out that was a temporary contract as well because of the hardship exemption. So I'm not even sure if he's still technically able to. I don't know how long that. I have to be honest with you. I don't know how long that exemption lasts. But in order to qualify for that exemption, you have to not be able to field the 14-man bench or 14-man roster plus a goalkeeper going into the game. And I think Sporting are starting to get some numbers back in that regard, so they might not be able to use Wilson Harris in that situation going forward. Now that they have Gianluca Busio back, we have to remember that as well, because part of the reason they couldn't put 15 guys on the field or on their active roster for the game last weekend was because players like Gianluca Busio are out with the U17s as well. We have a question from Facebook Live, and we again appreciate everybody that's here at Turn 2 Lounge and those of you that are watching on Facebook Live from Ruby. How does Sporting build chemistry with all the new players quickly? And Carter, I do think that's a fantastic question from Ruby, because I've asked Peter Vermees some questions about the struggles. Look, it's no secret this team hasn't won a game since March 30th, and that's the longest winless stretch since 2016 for the Sporting Kansas City team. And I asked him that when you have the team going through a rough patch like this right now, do guys try to start to do too much? Maybe try to do a little bit more than what is your actual responsibility on the field? And he said not only do guys try to do too much because they want to be the guy that makes the play to win the game, they also know that there's 5 other guys that are being called up to fill in for someone else. So if you're a regular on the field in one of these games, you think to yourself, maybe I got to move myself a little bit farther over here so that so-and-so can make the pass to me. And the next thing you know, you're out of position if the ball doesn't come to you. And there's a knock-on effect. We saw from Ash Wallace how important it is that all of those players are working in concert together and trusting one another. He's going to do his job, so I just need to stay here and do my job. And I think it's a natural thing when you're playing with young players, players that you haven't played with before. And I do think the last couple of games, Carter, we're starting to see more of that. I think Benny Feilhaber has really calmed things down in the middle of the field, and hopefully we see more of that today against Seattle.
Yeah, you're talking about chemistry on the pitch, which is tough, and with all these injuries, you get the guys that Graham Zusian and Johnny Russell know each other so well down that right flank, so they know how they're going to play. And then once you start to lose guys, you start to lose those types of little partnerships on the field. But chemistry off the field in the locker room, that's something where Benny Feilhaber comes in immensely. And we heard Peter Vermees say this is part of the reason why they brought him in, was a little bit of a boost in that department as well. And then just back to the partnerships on the field, I think we're starting to see he and Felipe Gutierrez maybe knowing each other's movements, knowing what they're going to do a little bit better. We talked to Benny Feilhaber, and he mentioned one particular instance in the game 2 weeks ago where maybe he didn't think that Felipe Gutierrez was going to pass it to him in behind, and he wound up being open but didn't anticipate the pass, and maybe he'll just keep that in the back of his mind and look for it in the future. So I know the type of person that each player is taken into account when Peter Vermees brings them in for the chemistry off the field. And they have such a wonderful veteran leadership group, Matt Beazer, Roger Espinoza, among their Graham Zusi, that really set the tone for the locker room. And guys like Johnny Russell, Felipe Gutierrez, Ilie have come in and said, yeah, you don't have to really do much. Peter doesn't have to do much, because those guys really set the tone in that regard. And now we're starting to see maybe the chemistry on the field of some of these guys getting called up develop as well.
And I'll say one other thing that I think is going to help this Sporting Kansas City team out a lot. That's you guys. Because yesterday at training, if people didn't see, there were a few dozen Sporting Kansas City fans who organized and were waiting at Pinnacle when the players all arrived at training. And I've talked to a few of the players, and it meant a lot to them. To know, I mean, there aren't many fan bases in the country where you go through a rough patch like this and you show up at training the day before a game and you've got several of your own fans there to cheer for you and support you and tell you that they've got your back. These players feel it. And when they take the field here at Children's Mercy Park in, a little over an hour from now today, you guys make a big difference in trying to lift their spirits. And so I hope you guys understand how big of a difference you make for them as well. Let's see Sporting Kansas City go get those 3 points today. What do you guys think, right? Our thanks to everybody here at Turn 2 Lounge at Hollywood Casino, right across the way from Children's Mercy Park. You can park here, eat here, and play, and then ride over to the game and come back for free as well. This is going to be going on all season long. Thanks to all of you for watching on Facebook Live as well. Let's go Sporting Kansas City.